All right, my babies. I really don't like it when I start recording and it doesn't go anywhere. And 8 minutes, sometime, I don't know, maybe 4 minutes, I don't care. 'Cause I was on a roll and I was speaking and I was excited and I was filling the gaps and getting somewhere and then ta-da, didn't fucking work. But hey, it was, if listening is a skill, I scratched it way too soon. That's probably why. If listening is a skill, what are the levels of listening? And it was in my earlier video, last video, I was discussing how actually listening to my friend made me kind of take a step back and want her to come and kind of like break a piece of me that already existed. And it's because whatever she was talking was a completely different perception of reality. And her reality, basically, and mine are different because each one has a unique methodology of how reality is constructed. As she was explaining to me how I saw truth in her, I saw honesty in her, I saw like a complete just expression of how she saw the world. And I went silent. And at that point, I was explaining, I was feeling, I think, kind of like think that calm. I think like I don't know if that was calm that I was feeling, but I remember I was completely like, give me everything you can, not everything you have, everything you can, naturally because you want to respect other people's what other people are giving you, and it's not a greed thing. It's about like she is actually telling me something truthful to her, and I also like I think wrote it down is when it comes to listening, different there are different things that have to connect. And I think in three stages, the first thing is I have to believe that what you're telling me is the truth, right? But that's like the simplest form of like looking at somebody and be like, that's a naive approach. Because the second approach, which is a bit more like skeptical, would be like me believing that you believe what you're saying is the truth. So because you can think that's the truth and I can just believe that. And it's the complacent way of approaching a conversation because I don't want to actually put my own thoughts into it. And then there's a second way, which means I would believe that you believe whatever you're telling me to be the truth, which is stronger, more foundational. It's just something that you have processed more than once. So, me believing that you believe that means I am kind of trusting you. But then there's the third one, which is I am trusting that you see that as your truth, which means I am trusting how you see the world to be an honest reflection of who you are. It's no longer your words that are making sense to me. It's no longer the conversation that's making sense to me or the storyline that's making sense to me. It's you that's making sense to me. And I personally think that's a sense of being, a sense of power, a sense of like, and somebody speaking honestly from what he perceives to be truth. That I think is where charisma is built. That is where people flow in your direction because your energy is calm, collected, and directed. Your energy is calm, collected, and directed. What does that mean? Uh, it's easy to flow with. It's easy to engage with. It's more responsive and accepting. Yes, it's more responsive and accepting. So if listening was a skill, I wrote this note while I was having a conversation with my father. And remember, like this is still inspired by a friend of mine where I was talking to her and I was like, anything you say right now is going to be a pivotal moment for my train of thought moving into the future. So that was an amazing. So that was me kind of relinquishing my own ego so that she could actually give me, so I could so I could hear purely what she was saying. And that seemed like a level of listening that I haven't kind of like engaged with before. I've engaged with different forms of listening. And I would want to see if I could actually do the levels. But ultimately, what happened with my father is he was trying to tell me something. And I was talking to him. Then he responded with, you know what, you're right. And normally, when somebody says that, that means they're giving up. That doesn't mean you actually got the point. Let's face it. All of us have found ourselves in a situation where somebody's like, "You're right. Sure, do your thing." And sometimes it's not really because you just couldn't understand. It's probably also because they're not communicating, and it's not you because everyone communicates with their own vibe, with their own style, with their own mannerisms, with their own charisma, with their own words, choice of words, the mixing of the words, and how they form sentences. All of these are kind of like different approaches, and they're built with the person as they evolve in this world because that's how they see reality. Some are simple, some are complicated, some are just straight to the point, some are philosophical, some millions and thousands and hundreds of millions and billions of ways, because every individual has his own unique take, which means every individual explores and expresses in their own unique way. And so I stopped and I felt like I was off. What the fuck? I thought we were having a conversation, but apparently I wasn't. I was just saying what I thought was what I thought the conversation was about, and that wasn't really like harmonizing. I don't fucking agree with what he was saying, but only later I found out I really didn't agree. That's why it was more of an argument than me listening, right? Because like I heard what he said, but I didn't really listen to it and respond accordingly. And so when he kind of like came back like an hour later, I was like, listen, man, about earlier, I felt like I did not listen to you properly, or there was something off because I thought we were talking and then you were like, I'm done talking. So that means whatever you were trying to say was not really being heard with me. And then it clicked in my head because effectively what I'm doing is training by me realizing that I did not actually hear him out. It was a listening activity for me to kind of like come back to it. And when I saw him, I was like, okay, so earlier this is what happened. And I thought I was doing good doing good listening until I realized that you actually weren't feeling that I was listening to you. So effectively, this is me stating it right now. Then he looks at me and he goes like, "We have to remember when I told you about listening skills." And I looked at him. I was like, "Yeah, but like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, if somebody has never understood what listening means, how the hell would they understand it?" And it clicked. Actually, listening is a skill, and if it was to be considered a skill, what would be the levels of listening? So I started reflecting on myself and how I listen. And it starts with like hearing words. And first things first, like, if you're not quiet when somebody else is talking, it doesn't fucking matter. You're not listening. You're not even level zero. Level zero is when you're just quiet and nodding your head, or just quiet and looking at the person, like, speak. But for me, I have ADHD. So when I'm looking at the person, most of the time my mind is doing its own thing. So I'm not listening, I'm just being thoughtful. So level two would be me repeating what they're saying. And normally we're always focused on what's happening. So because I can hear what you're saying, and if I'm looking at something else, I'm not really with you. And I don't think it's an ADHD thing. Level one is being able to like maintain focus, look at the people, and have them speak. Level one would be having them speak and being quiet. Level two would be having them speak and being quiet. And for me, it's repeating what they're saying in real time in my mind. So it feels like I'm the one saying it. And the reason I do that is because so I can actually like process the sentences in my head. Because for some reason, my mind is not allowing them in. And what would be level three? Level three would be after processing, taking maybe some time to think about them, which normally isn't the case because after you process, you respond to it. But instead of responding in your head, what you're doing, you're responding with the same person that's in front of you. So when you're thinking, that's effectively what you're doing. When you're thinking with yourself, you're saying something, listening to yourself, and then saying, yeah, no, I don't know what, and it's an argument or whatever you want to call it, until you kind of figure something out and reach an agreement. With other people, I don't think they see it this way. So I think level 4 would be you actually trying to respond with what you thought you understood. And that's where I like realized with like when I was like having a conversation with my dad, and I was like, no, I thought I was having a conversation with you. But ultimately, truly listening is, or truly having a conversation instead of just an argument, is having somebody speak and being able to respond with what they said, not what you think they said. And that is, I think, a level where I'm cracking. But in order for me to like strengthen the skill, I can't jump into the response. I have to take the time to actually process things until I get better at processing things faster. And I think the fifth level of listening is what I had with my friend, where I was like having a conversation with her. And when she started talking, something completely kind of like shut my mind off and was like, that woman is being honest and truthful and speaking from a personal experience and from something that she is willing maybe to bet her existence on. That was heavy enough, or that was like just like strong enough, or just kind of like intentional enough for me to kind of be like, oh, I am, my mind shut down. And the only activity that was happening was her having talking. And I think that's basically the levels of listening. There, if listening was a skill, what would be its levels? 5, 0 to 5.